So everyone, hello. I'm Anna from GreenGeeks, and thank you so much for joining us today and spending your morning with us. Our presentation is called Getting Started with Google Analytics, and it's presented by our guest speaker, Brandy Lawson, and who is ready to learn some Google Analytics. I hope you guys are all excited. I'm going to introduce Brandy in a moment. I just want to say real quick a couple of words about GreenGeeks. For those of you who are not familiar with us, we're a 300% green energy web hosting provider, which essentially means we put back 3 times the amount of energy we consume into the grid in the form of renewable energy. We have been recognized by the US EPA since 2009 as a green power partner, and we offer share hosting, reseller hosting, VPS, and dedicated server. Okay, so now moving on to a few housekeeping items. If you have questions, you're going to put them in the Q&A, and then Brandy will be answering them at the end of the presentation. You're welcome to chat in the chat room. We love that. But remember that you have to select all panelists and attendees, or everyone, if you want everyone to see what you're discussing. And as always, we're recording this presentation, so if you need to step away or you need to, for some reason, log off the Zoom, we will be sending to you in a couple of days. We have Erica from our team today will be helping us in the chat room. Thank you, Erica. And now I'm going to introduce Brandy. Brandy is a tech fan, a ridiculous shoe lover, really. We want to hear later about that. A clarity bringer, a recovering know-it-all, and a speaker. She heads up FieryFX, which is a marketing and consulting agency helping entrepreneurs maximize their use of technology to scale. She hosts a weekly podcast called Leverage Your Spark that delivers snackable knowledge bombs for business owners and marketers to better use experts and technology for faster, easier growth and improvement. So welcome, Brandy. Would you like to say hi, introduce yourself, and start the presentation?
Well, thank you, Anna. Thank you for having me. I am excited to be here and talk about one of my favorite things, which is Google Analytics, because websites are great, but they cannot be business assets unless we know what's happening on them. So, and Google Analytics is one of the great ways to do that. So today, I'm going to be bouncing between my presentation and I've got a Google Analytics demo account that we're going to be getting into. So we'll be going between those two screens. Like Anna said, if you have questions, pop them in the Q&A. And we'll try to keep a little eye on that so that I can answer them in context, but definitely we will get to questions at the end. So please don't be shy. Google Analytics can be complex. And the other thing about getting it set up is unless you're an agency, you're probably only going to set up your Google Analytics once. So we'll go through this, talk about the nuances, and make sure that you have a good foundation. So are we ready to get started? Hopefully, because that's what's happening now. All right, I'm going to share my presentation here. Let's see if I do this correctly. All right. Okay, Zoom. All right, can we see the presentation?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay. Perfect. So the first thing we're going to do is I want you either in chat or you can just keep this to yourself. It's fine. I want you to rate your confidence when it comes to Google Analytics. Just give yourself 1 being, and 5 being, I'm pretty confident. I'm like, I got this. So give yourself from 1 to 5. You can drop it in the chat if you want to share, or just keep it to yourself is also fine, but give yourself a score. Good, 1 yikes. I'd like to do this just so I get sort of a feel for the room. Wow, okay, so we've got some confidence that we'll be building. Awesome. 3. Oh, Kim, that's great. All right, so give yourself a score, and then what do you want that score to be? Like, how confident would you like to be by the end of this presentation? Well, you know, we're hoping to build your confidence. You may have to come revisit these things. There will be some links and some other resources. But like, what are we trying to accomplish for you today? Like, get you from a 1 to a 3? Cool. Get you from a 3 to a 4, a 10. Oh, good. Reverend Greg, well, then you could do this for me. Fantastic. All right. So I like to start with a little baseline to kind of see where you're at and see where we want to go. That is fantastic. And that also helps you kind of level set expectations and know what you're looking for to get out of this. Next up, why me? So I have a lot of experience with Google Analytics. We've been working with them for a number of years. We help clients plan, execute, and implement these tools. And also, I love data. I think it's really important, especially when working with anything online, because the best thing we can do is pair our experience and expertise and make our best guess, and then we have to see how it works, and then we have to adjust. So data is the only way to know what is working. I also gave you this because when a presenter is presenting information, we come with our experience and expertise, and we also come with our own biases. So knowing where I'm coming from also helps you decide how you're going to consume the information. Here at FieryFX, we work with businesses who are ready to leverage experts in tech for growth. So we work with leadership and we work with creative teams. All right, so we're going to get into it. And the first thing we're going to talk about is installing Google Analytics. And before that, we're going to talk about terminology and UA versus GA4. Don't worry, you don't have to know what these are. UA is Universal Analytics. That is the current version of Google Analytics that is been around, I think, for probably 5 or 6 years. GA4, Google Analytics 4, is the next generation of Google Analytics, and it's been around for probably 2 years. The too long didn't read is at this point you need to use both, and here's why. Universal Analytics is still where the bulk of the information is coming from, and if you have had Google Analytics installed, this is where your historical data is. You need to start using GA4. In fact, for all of our clients that aren't new, we have lots of clients that have been with us for a long time. If they don't already have GA4, we're setting up GA4 in January because probably, again, like Google changes things. And also in this presentation, I'm not going to attempt to explain any of the choices Google has made. I'm just simply going to tell you what it is and how we're dealing with that. So we're going to implement GA4 for any of our clients who don't already have GA4 so that it is collecting data, because our best guess is about 2023 is when we'll be able to start really using GA4. And we want to have at least a year's worth of historical data so that we can compare year over year. Now, we will still continue to use Universal Analytics, UA, through that time. So the biggest difference between UA and GA4 is that they're using a different measurement model. Universal Analytics uses a measurement model based on session and page views. Probably sounds familiar, pretty comfortable. GA4 uses a measurement model based on events and parameters. It's the next generation. It's going to be really cool when it's ready. And it's not really ready for prime time yet. So we're going to need to use both. Now, don't worry, it's okay. It's not going to be a big deal. First thing you're going to do is you're going to set up Universal Analytics first, and then Google, in their wisdom, has actually given you a setup assistant to set up GA4 second. So, and if you're just getting this set up and you're like, can't even with all of this, just set up Universal Analytics. And then in January, come back and you can use the GA4 assistant. So here's the steps. First, create your Universal Analytics account. Then you're going to create a property. Then you're going to create views. So let's talk about this terminology again. And I think that here in just a second, I'll show you what it looks like. So again, don't get worried. Terminology, property. So property is like the big container. For our company, we have it's actually TechGirl LLC is our holding company, TechGirl Property. Under TechGirl TechGirl Account. Then we have properties. So FieryFX.com, our website, is a property. If we had apps, an app would be a different property. So the property is like the actual thing you're measuring. Then views are different ways that we're going to look at the data. Most of the time, if somebody doesn't really know what they're doing, they only set up one view. It's okay. It's not the worst thing. The best practice is to set up 3 views. One being the official view or the production view, the view that we're using. The second being the raw view. This is data that is untouched by any filters or anything else. It's absolutely raw data. And then the third one is test, where we can go in and play around with things and we're not going to mess up any of the data we're trying to track. Because, oh, the TLDR is you need to use both. You need to use both universal analytics because that's the information that's actionable and usable now. And you'll need to set up GA4 for the future. So the way Google Analytics processes data is that it once a day pulls all the information in, processes it through the view, and then that data is that way forevermore in that view. Now there's ways on the other side to segment and look at different parts of that data, but it is only processed in a view once a day. So in the view, if you have filters set up, if you're filtering out IP addresses, if you're doing things, that gets processed once, and then that data is that way forever, which is why it's useful to have a raw view, which is untouched data. So if we see something funny and we're like, well, is this because of the way that we filtered the data? Like, what is this? We can go to the raw view and look at the untouched data as a contrast. This is sort of next level. Many business owners don't go there, but if you ever have a professional working with you, you'll want these views so that they can do their job to the best of their ability. So that is, so at this point, I am going to switch, we'll go to the demo slide and we'll switch over to the other view. Now I'm gonna go new share and I'm gonna share the right one. Boom, okay, share. Okay, hopefully now you see Google Analytics. Yes? Yes, Anna. Okay, thank you, Anna. Thank you for the visible. Okay, so this is what the admin screen looks like in Google Analytics. And I'm looking at a demo account. And there's a link at the end of this. If you want to go in and set up a demo account just to dink around, Google will tell you how to do that. But I'm first going to go, usually when we come into Google Analytics, we'll wait for it to load. This is our overview page. Yay, great. But what we're worried about right now is all in the admin. All right, so in the admin, here is our account, that large container. Over here are our properties, and you'll see that there's 2 GA4 properties set up here and a universal analytics set up here. So we're going to be looking at this universal analytics. Then, oh, that doesn't have it. Got to move my other thing here. Then here's our view. And you can see there's a master view, a test view, and a raw data view, the 3 views that we talked about. In settings, now I've got to go back to my presentation, make sure that I'm in here. Yes, no. Nope, not yet. I wanted you to see how this looks, because when you go in, you're going to first create your account. That if you've never been in Google Analytics before, it forces you to do that. Access management. This is the other piece that when you create your account, you're creating it from the Google account you created it from, and you will have the overview here. This will be your master. You will be the admin. You can add other admins. And you can add users of different levels at each level. So you can add account owners and editors, you can add property owners and editors, and you can add view owners and editors. So I really caution you to make sure that if someone does this for you, you have admin at the account level. If you are doing this for someone else and they're a paying client, that they have admin at account level, because many clients have, unfortunately, lost access to their analytics, or they never got access. So really thinking about which Google accounts, which level of ownership, and who should have which permissions is another pro tip for setup, because if you solve this problem now, it will not come back to bite you later. All right, so that's here's what it looks like. And those are the things to consider. We will come back here when we talk about settings. But now I want to go to installation. Boop. All right, share. All right, back to the slideshow, yes? Okay, so installing on your website. So once you have this set up, you are going to install it on your website. This is the key to actually using Google Analytics, but there are several ways to do it. So one of the ways you can do it is with Google Tag Manager. And in fact, I highly, may I stress, highly recommend Google Tag Manager. There's a link at the end of the presentation, and if the hosts want to also share it now, there's a link to how to use Google Tag Manager. Google Tag Manager is its own presentation, its own thing, but I highly recommend using Google Tag Manager to set up Google Analytics because, well, Google loves Google, and it just makes everything easier. It will capture events, it will do things for you that otherwise you have to know more about. So that's my recommendation. A second option, if you're using WordPress, is a plugin like Monster Insights. Monster Insights does a very good job of giving you all of the pieces and controls for properly implementing Google Analytics so you can capture events. If you're more comfortable with that, great. I'd still recommend Tag Manager, but I also do what is actually going to get done. If you don't have WordPress and instead you have something like Squarespace or Shopify, if you have some sort of builder, there's typically a Google Analytics integration, which means somewhere in settings, there's a place that you need to paste your UA code. Great. They have done some of the heavy lifting for you. You simply have to go set up your account and pop your UA code in. And then lastly, if you absolutely have to, you can add it manually in the header, but I really don't recommend doing that because there's much better ways to do that unless you're a hardcore developer and you are down in the depths of all the things, then have at it. So that's how you install Google Analytics. I was looking for the questions, making sure there's no questions at this point. No questions. Okay, cool. I'm also watching, I've got the chat up too. Settings. Okay, so here is where people go awry, is that they create their Google Analytics account and then they're like, cool, I installed it, let's go to the thing. And I'm like, no, actually, Google didn't do a great job of getting all the defaults turned on for you. So we're gonna need to go through the settings. Account settings. So that's that first level, and I'll switch back to showing you here. This is mostly for Google preferences and users, who else needs access. So the stuff at the account level is pretty fine. It's not a big deal. The property level is where we start getting into things that need some attention, and you want to be paying attention to the settings you've got set up. So specifically, when you name your properties, please name them logically and intuitively for you and or your client. Then getting into settings, we're going to look at advertising features, demographics, and enhanced link attribution. And again, don't worry, I'll show you, we'll walk through it. Then also tracking. We need to look at the data collection and the remarketing, data retention, and referral exclusion. All right, so back into the dashboard here. Analytics, share. Here we are. All right, so account settings. Like I said, this is mostly Google preferences. If you want to let them in, and you will have to agree to their data processing terms. Account settings basics. Property settings. Here is where you want to turn on demographics and interest reports, unless you've told your website users that you won't collect that information about them. So here's where we're crossing into territory about making sure that you have privacy policy posted on your website, telling users that you're going to collect information about them because that's what Google Analytics is. And that you're also familiar with your region's laws like GDPR and California privacy law and all those things. You're going to want to make sure that you tell users that you're collecting information and do the things that your country or region requires you to do to get their consent. But if you don't turn this on, Google Analytics will not collect any information about demographics or interests, which might be something that you want to know. In-page analytics, the enhanced link attribution, you do want to turn this on. It is not on by default. And then I'm looking at my list here. What else in here? Oh yeah, demographic advertising features. Yep. Again, I'm not going to try to explain why Google called things this advertising features. Like, it's the information. So turn those two things on. Note the things about making sure you're compliant. Then we are going to go to tracking info. Now here is where you get your tracking code. This is the code that if you've got an integration, you're going to pop in. If you use Google Tag Manager, you'll need this also. This is your tracking ID. If you're putting it into your site manually, this is what you would use. Again, I don't recommend it, but it's there. What we want to go to here is data collection. If you are using Google Ads, you probably want to turn on remarketing because you're going to want that. It's not on by default, and advertising reporting features. If at any point you think you're going to use this with Google Ads, pay-per-click, turn these things on. Next is data retention. By default, Google Analytics only retains user and event data for 26 months. Now, this doesn't mean that your analytics information goes away after 26 months. It just means that after 26 months, it removes part of the depth of information. So you'll still see page views and you'll still see those types of things. But if you were trying to go deep and like track a user's journey more than 26 months, you're not going to be able to do that. You can change that to do not automatically expire. Whatever you change this to should be consistent with your privacy policy and the laws for your region. Reset on new activity. Leave this as default unless you have, this would be default most of the time, unless you're doing something kind of funky. All right, and then down here, referral exclusion list. So here, so we use Acuity to set up schedule meetings. And Acuity has a Google Analytics integration. So we're using our Google Analytics account on Acuity and on our website. So here I have listed the Acuity domain as an exclusion for referral, because if they're going to Acuity and coming back to our site, that's not a referral. That's someone interacting with our things. So if you have like ActiveCampaign, or if you have them bouncing off to any other place, any other service where you're tracking their behavior and then they're coming back, you'll want to add that domain in this exclusion list so you're not getting more sessions than you actually have. All right. Let's see, is this, oh, then, well, so since we're in here, so those are the settings for property. In view, same thing here. Name them logically: master view, test view, raw data view, official view, whatever makes good sense to you, name them accordingly. And then these settings I'm going to talk about are for your official or master view. In view settings, please go in and check this box to exclude all hits from known bots and spiders. It's not perfect. You may still get some analytics spam, but please check this box. It will help. Then down here, if you have a WordPress site, if you have a site that actually has search, you can turn on site search tracking, which is super helpful, because then in addition to seeing what people are doing on your website, Google Analytics can also see what people are searching for on your website. In some cases, you may have something like Search WP, which provides you with its own set of analytics, which is great. But if you have search on your website, turn on site search tracking and then tell it what the query parameter is. So by default, WordPress uses the query parameter S for search. Then you will be able to have that information in Google Analytics. Next, we're going to talk about e-commerce settings. Even if you don't have an e-commerce site, please turn on e-commerce and enhanced e-commerce reporting. Why, Brandy? Why, you ask? Because it gives you access to additional functionality in Google Analytics that is not on by default if you don't turn on the e-commerce setup. So just trust me, just turn it on. It doesn't cost you anything. It's not going to do anything else. Be sure to turn those on. All right. Yes. So those are the setting pieces. And as you can see, like if you didn't come in here and exclude your referral stuff or turn on the e-commerce or turn on the demographics and you get down the line, you're like, well, how come I can't know who's coming to my site? Well, it's because these things weren't on by default. So settings are important. All right, moving back to the presentation, maybe, there we go. All right, back to the presentation. Oh, hang on. Here's my slide on view. Name things logically. Here's the settings we talked about. Goals. So we've set it up. We've installed it. We have the settings where we want them. The next piece that's really helpful is goals. So why would we set up goals? Because this way you can define your own conversions. So in your business, if say you don't have an e-commerce business, say you have a service business, a B2B service business, and you actually want people to download your lead magnet or schedule a call, you can define those as conversions and then get more information about what those users did before they did the thing you wanted them to do, because those are defined as goals in Google Analytics. So how to do that? Well, we're going to go back into settings. You're going to go admin view goals. You're going to click new goal, and then you're going to do the rest of these steps. So basically there's a template or custom, template or custom, and we're going to name your goal logically and intuitively and select a type and provide details and save. So goals could be its own whole subsection. This is high level how to do it. We will look at it in here, but there's a lot of other resources that will help you go even further. And if you have already like your thank you page set up for your lead magnet, you can just put in a URL. So I'll show you. You share, back to here, share. All right, so again, this is in your master production official view because goals are per view. Go to goals. And then you're going to click new goal. Okay, so this is a demo account. I can't click new goal here. But we're going to go look in an existing goal. So here, it's custom, but when you go into goal setup, you can, if you have an e-commerce site, you can just set a goal for place an order or checkout complete or create an account. These are all goal templates, but more often than not, it's probably going to be custom. Then you can go to the next goal description. They call theirs engaged users because they're looking for how many pages or screens per session. Again, like if we go back to the example of the goal is that they download the lead magnet, I might just set it as destination because I can say, hey, if people hit the thank you page for the lead magnet, that tells me that they downloaded, that they filled out the form, and that's my goal. Event is the ability to capture the form submission or something that happened on the page. So this can get a little technical, but if we go back to the lead magnet example, it doesn't have to be. If you have a page that people only see after they've done the thing you wanted them to do, then setting up a goal is as simple as naming it, saying destination, and then when we get to the details, I was trying to see, here we go, haha. I can show you an example here. Maybe, come on, Google Analytics, load. Come on. Nope, it's not gonna load. Isn't this what always happens with demos, right? You go along with the software and it fails to. All right, here we go. All right, so this one is a destination goal. And then we just put in the URL that they hit. You can make this more complicated. You do not have to make this more complicated, but you can by saying what the funnel is, like what is the path they took to get to the goal. Again, if you were just getting started, maybe we want to keep it simple and just set up the goal as, I want them to hit this page because it tells me they scheduled, or they downloaded the lead magnet, or they read the thing I wanted them to read. Goals, again, could be its own masterclass, but by setting up the top 1 or 2 things that you want people to do, you can get more information about what they did before they got there. All right, so those are goals. Meanwhile, back to presentation. Pro tip on goals. You are limited to 20 per reporting view. I've never bumped up against this limit. I am kind of choosy about what we put in for goals, but it is something to know about each view. All right, I'm going to take a pause here because I've kind of given you a lot of information. Just looks like Chris is going to come back to this. Do we have any questions at this point before I dive into tracking links? Okay, well then we'll just carry on. Tracking links. So why do we want to track links? So we get to review the results of our marketing efforts, not just ads, but joint ventures, affiliates. So basically links that we put out in the world, if we do it correctly, we can get more information when they come back to our site. And we can also see the performance of individual social posts, topics and categories, and track other efforts like menu or on-page links. We had a client who had a homepage that had some big buttons on the homepage about how to get into the site, but they also had a menu bar. We were able to track who was clicking on the big buttons on the homepage versus who was clicking on the menu bar, and know how people were getting to that page. Not just that they were getting to the camping page, but what button were they using the menu, or were they using the homepage buttons? So then we could make more informed decisions about if we wanted to highlight a new service. Do we just list it in the menu? The answer was no, because people were using the homepage buttons to get places. So that's why tracking links is important. How would we go about tracking links? So Google Analytics and UTM codes. UTM stands for Urchin Tracking Module. Does this actually mean anything in the real world? No, it does not. Turns out that was the company Google acquired to get this technology, and so we're stuck with the UTM code. This is important. If you want to track a link, you need to create the tracking link before you publish. So for example, if you're going to have an article published somewhere and they're like, hey, give us a link to put in there, you can create a custom link to put in that article. So you know when people came from that article, not just that they were referred from a specific site, but that they came from that specific article. You can track, like this is, people in PR are always like, we can't track. I'm like, oh, but you can. You just have to do links. UTMs are only for external links. So this is important because if Google Analytics sees a UTM code, it starts a new session. So if someone's inside your site, you don't want to use a UTM code because then it would start a new session. It's not actually a new session. So you build links with UTM codes. And then you can see it inside of Google Analytics. So I'm going to go to this campaign URL builder. Okay, UTM codes look a little overwhelming at first. They're not. You can keep them simple. There's also these couple Chrome extensions where the links are, again, at the end of the presentation that you can use to make it easier to build your UTM code links. And when these, and you've probably seen these codes out in the world, it's like link, and then it's got this query string that seems to go on forever. So I like to make sure that we build the UTM code links and then we shorten them. We use our own internal, like we use pretty links in WordPress, but then the short link is nice and uncomplicated. for publishing, but then we do have that UTM information behind it that gets us the good stuff. So I am gonna open actually, oh, that did work. Okay, that works. The campaign URL builder kind of walks you through step-by-step how to build the URL. So you put in the website URL, we'll just use our website. And then you'll notice that there are asterisks for the items that are required. So campaign ID is not required. If you're not running ads, you probably don't need a campaign ID. Move on. Campaign source. So the referrer. So Google, newsletter, article, Forbes, what the source. So source can be, and it can help if you're going to do a lot of these to kind of think through the typical things that you have and define them ahead of time, as opposed to creating them on the fly every time. But maybe, so source should be broad, and well, medium is broader. So maybe medium is PR and source is article. And then the campaign name is getting started with Google Analytics. And then optionally, you can also have campaign terms. So the idea is to identify broadly where, and then get more specific so that when we pop into, I'm gonna go back to my slide for a second. When we go into Google Analytics, we can sort things by source and medium and keywords. So this comes down to internally defining how you want to look at things, then using that information in the UTM codes so that later it can come back around and you can go, oh, all of our email newsletters that went out via MailChimp about Black Friday, that spiked our visits to our site. So you can trace things back to external sources. Questions on that? The reason I put this in getting started with Google Analytics is because it is one of the most powerful ways you can be using it to get more information about what's working and what's driving people to the site. Oh, and so this is the Data Studio report, but it gives you an idea of what you can see when you use UTM codes. So specifically, we can go like, hey, show me just the traffic that came from links that have UTM codes. And further, what was the campaign? What was the source medium? And how many people? So you can see like active campaign email, and then the campaign has the subject line of the email. So we know specifically 12 people came. I like specific. All right, questions on that? Haven't seen anything pop up in the QA. Okay. Either you people are like asleep or I guess we're tracking. Okay, internal links. I've said this before, don't use UTMs. Instead, you can use Page Analytics by Google, which is a Chrome extension. And because we went and turned on the internal links in our settings, we can basically use that Chrome extension and then see where people are clicking. That is the basic way to see how people are using our internal links. More advanced, you can set up custom link attribution events, which allowed us to do what we were doing with that one client, which is track who's clicking on the things in the page and who's clicking on the menu items. That's sort of next level. We could have probably got some of that with the internal link pathing, but by turning on that one setting and by using Page Analytics, you can see it on your website. Questions? Are we good? All right, finally, we've come to limitations. Yes, there are limitations to Google Analytics. Google Analytics is not good for reports. And that's good because Google Analytics is a gathering mechanism. Google Analytics is designed to be able to pull in information and create a data set. That's what it's good for. It is not good for reports. And nor should it be good for reports, because reporting is a whole different functionality. And that's why Google has Data Studio. So if you're trying to pull together reports, I highly recommend using Data Studio, because it is a visualization tool. And turns out works really easily with Google Analytics. Putting your analytics account in and pulling up charts is very easy. Going from there, of course, it's its own hill to climb, but we use it for our client reporting. It's very versatile. It's pretty intuitive, and it's been around for probably more than 5 years. So it's a solid, great visualization tool. Just what I'm saying is, don't go into Google Analytics and expect good reporting. It's not what it's for. Next, heat maps. Google Analytics is not really a heat mapping tool. Better tools are Hotjar or Microsoft Clarity. Questions on that? Some other notes here. So be aware of analytics spam. Yes, it's a thing. It used to be really bad. It's better now. Google's done a better job of being able to combat it, but every once in a while, there'll be a spike in traffic and it's not real. So you can put in additional segments to filter out analytics spam. The filters that you can put in the view, like I said, they only get processed one time. Segments allow us to look at to filter the data post-processing. So segments allow us to just pick pieces and parts of the data to look at. And so you can use segments to scrape out any of that analytics spam if you happen to get some. But the reason I want to tell people about this is I've had clients be like, oh my gosh, they're tracking their stuff. Oh, wait. I'm like, that doesn't smell right. And then I go look, I'm like, yeah, no, that's analytics spam. So it's not as big as a problem as it used to be, but it still exists. Internal refers, I talked a little bit about this, but this is also a place of false traffic, to make sure that and this is what happens, is like you set Google Analytics up, you're going about your life, and then you get Pipedrive, or you add a landing page thing, and you're like, oh, great, we're going to make sure we're tracking. So you put your Google Analytics on there and you forget all about it. And then you're like, wait, this seems wrong, because you forgot to put them into the exclusion for refers. So anytime you drop your analytics UA number in anything, make sure you go back to your settings and exclude that domain as a refer, so that you're keeping your data clean. All right, whew, that's it. I don't see any questions, so I'm going to stop my share here so I can see you guys on the screen.
Thank you, Brandy. I don't see any question either. I have a question. Like, if someone wanted to do a more in-depth course and really learn, like, because 1 hour is not enough, what do you suggest?
So Google itself has some, I think there's even still a Google Analytics certification. So Google itself has some in-depth coursework on Google Analytics. And I know that there have been, over the years, several other people that have courses on Google Analytics. I don't have any specific that I would necessarily recommend, but and I was just trying to think through the other people I know that have like tutorials. Most of the getting started with WordPress, or people who do those types of things, will have a Google Analytics module, because it's still pretty much the way to know what's going on with your website.
Got it. And how long do you think it takes from starter to becoming proficient to use it?
That's a hard question.
It's a loaded question.
Well, I think it depends on how comfortable you are with business intelligence and data analytics to begin with. If you're pretty versed, then what they're doing with Google Analytics will make a lot of sense, and you'll probably catch on pretty quickly. If you're kind of new to BI, business intelligence, or analytics, there's a lot of terminology, And a lot of like statisticians love analytics. They're like, so if you didn't do well in stats class, it's probably going to take you a little bit longer to kind of wrap your head around what's going on. Google Analytics in and of itself isn't terribly complex. Like, it's got some basics and you can get through the basics, but wrapping your brain around those basics kind of depends on your context going into it. If you're absolutely new, it's probably going to take you a little bit longer because you're climbing the analytics education curve as well as the Google implementation of it. If you've been around the bend or used some of the other tools, it'll probably take you like, what do I say? If you already know analytics, you're probably pretty solid with Google Analytics in 20 to 30 hours. If you don't know it, you're probably more 40 to 60 hours.
Oh yeah, it takes time. And
it takes time.
Yeah. So I'm not really sure that you shared your last, there's a question, but that you shared your last slide you mentioned with Lou.
Yes. Oh, yes, absolutely. Share screen. There it is. Share.
Oh, the links. Okay.
All the links. All right, there is a question from Sharon. If you use Monster Insights, does that mean that this plugin will do what you would do in your own GA account? They just simplify it in terms of setting up goals, etc. for beginners. It's a paid. So Monster Insights has a free and a paid version. It handles primarily the implementation part on the website side. So it's going to be much less complicated than setting up with Google Tag Manager. It kind of takes that heavy lifting for you. You still need to go through your Google. It can't change the settings inside your Google Analytics account. So the things that we did on the settings page, you will still need to do, but making sure that your tracking code is set up to do all the things you want it to do on that side. And Monster Insights gives you some easier access and some more step-by-step when it comes to some more of the advanced things. So the free version works great. I don't remember what the paid version gets you, but they do have like a up level. Yeah, you're welcome. Yay. I answered live. Sweet. Oh, chat. What's up? Oh, yay. Yes, there's some more links. I think that you guys also have the link to the presentation that can be shared with the recording, so everybody can have access to that.
Absolutely. And let's see. We have another question from Kim Christiansen.
Tracking like other page views. So Kim, my position on Monster Insights is basically the step-by-step paint by numbers of things that you could do in Google Tag Manager. So I like Google Tag Manager because it's not only good for Google Analytics, but it gives you a container for every tracking mechanism. So your Facebook pixel, anything else that would typically go in your header goes in your Google Tag Manager instead, and you manage that in one place instead of giving people access to your site and doing a whole bunch of other things with plugins. And then inside Google Tag Manager, it can do all the things. You can set up custom events. It can do all the things Monster Insights can do plus, but it's a more, it's a developer interface, right? So it takes a little bit more doing, whereas Monster Insights was designed for people who aren't developers to try to give you access to the things that Google Tag Manager can do without you needing the learning curve of getting into Google Tag Manager. So paid version of Monster Insights is basically them simplifying most everything that Tag Manager can do, but Tag Manager is capable of so much more because you can get in there and customize each thing and look for events and have listeners here and do all kinds of crazy things if you're willing to like get developer-y.
Good.
Cool.
Okay, let's see if there's any more questions in the chat or in the Q&A. Otherwise, I wanted to ask you if people want to get in touch with you, if they have any additional question, what's the best way to find you?
So you can find me at FieryFX.com. I'm at FieryFX on Facebook and Twitter, LinkedIn. You can also check out our podcast at leverageyourspark.com.
That's great. Great. Okay, so if there are no additional questions, I'm going to let everybody go to their day. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending. Keep an eye out for future webinars. We have one coming up December 1st. It's going to be on WordPress accessibility. So that's a very, very important subject to tackle for your website. Very, very important right now. And thank you, Brandy. I'm going to thank Erica, even if she's mute, for her help.
Yes,
in the
thank you,
chat.
Erica. Thank you, Anna. Thanks, everybody, for coming.
Thank you, Brandy. Thank you. Take care. See you, everybody, later.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.